The chase for the Sprint Cup began Sunday at New Hampshire. The 300 laps included calculated strategy risks, intense action, a dominant car that didn't win, and a thrilling finish with a popular winner.
You better hook up your safety harness, put on the Hans and your helmet. 3 laps to go here at New Hampshire.
Juan Pablo Montoya on the inside. Martin on the outside. It's a drag race down to the end.
Martin slides up front. He edges ahead of Juan Pablo Montoya.
And a unanimous round of applause for Martin, the race leader.
The race is now over. It's the yellow flag and the checkered flag for Martin.
Martin wins for the 5th time. In 2009, he came in to this opening race of the Sprint Cup chase for the championship as the leader, and he will lead with the #1 position.
Mark Martin opened the chase by scoring his series-leading 5th win of the season and his first ever at New Hampshire, a race in which the championship contenders led all but 2 laps and took 8 of the top 11 finishing spots. The strategy, the standings, the slug-it-out finish, and more broken down by our Monday Roundtable panel next on NASCAR Now.
Welcome to NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot.
From the Home Depot Garage Studios, welcome to the Wow, What a Race edition of the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable. The first of the 10 races in the chase for the Sprint Cup gave us a lot to talk about. So we get right to it with our Roundtable panel. Ray Evernham, Ricky Craven, Boris Said with us this week. If you had to pick a star of the show, no, it's not a hockey game, no 3 stars here, a star of the show, who was it?
Well, I'm not picking a driver. They can pick drivers to get all the credit. I'm picking Alan Gustafson. Great strategy, took a chance, took a gamble, had his stuff in line, had a great car, and won the race with Mark Martin.
Yeah, but the 50-year-old still had to steer the car, so I'm going to take Mark Martin. And the fact is, this was supposed to be his weak link in the chase. Oh, boy.
Yeah. I'm taking Juan Pablo because Juan Pablo all year long said, I'm just points racing. Once I get in that chase, I'm going to let the reins loose. And he showed how aggressive and how fast he was, and he's going to challenge for this championship. I thought he was my star.
It was a fun day, that's for sure. Want to start our review of the race with Mark Martin, how things first worked out his way, and then how he made them work out his way in the final laps. With just over 100 laps to go, lap 194, the team decides not to pit Mark under caution, which gives him some track position. He locks up in a fight after the restart with then leader Kurt Busch and goes to the front for the first time at lap 204. Now Mark opens up a 2-second lead, but then is forced to pit under the green at lap 243, and this is where it got kind of dicey.
Yeah, again, that's why when I picked Alan knew what the chances were. It was a calculated risk. He knew that there was a long green flag stretch. Everybody else had to pit again. He had to go about 30 more laps, and they'd cycle out. He'd back in front, and bingo, he was. 7
laps after the pit stop, Mark is back on the lead lap with that pass of Denny Hamlin. Then when Bobby Labonte stops here at lap 272, the green flag stop cycled through, Mark is the leader. That's where it worked out his way. Now 3 late cautions, bringing about double file restarts, is how he made it work out his way. He had to work hard.
Yeah, and Mark and the car got better and better and better as the race went on, and he preferred the middle lane, the outside groove.
Held off Kurt Busch twice on restarts, which set up the final one with 3 laps to go and Juan Pablo Montoya to his inside.
And the pressure Mark's feeling with Juan Pablo on the inside, knowing how fast he is and how aggressive he was, it's amazing that he held him off and he ran the perfect line to win this race.
The race ends under caution, and Mark Martin wins at what had been one of his most difficult racetracks to take a victory to open the chase.
It's a dream. I was speechless after the race. I couldn't believe that that Alan Gustafson figured out a way to win a race at Loudon with me, because I don't get around this place very good. But, you know, I knew the times were pretty good in practice. I knew if we figured out a way to stumble around and get in the front, you know, I might be able to stay there. Juan was strong. It's a shame that it turned out the way it did, but we're tickled to death to get the win.
When Mark came on board, we knew we had to win races, or win a race, contend for race wins, top 5s, and put ourselves in position. Probably in position a little quicker than we thought, but with his talent, we knew we had that opportunity. So the goal is still the championship. That's what we're working towards. It's going to take a lot of work to do it, but I feel like we've got the right team to do it with, and I definitely know we have the right driver.
Great to win a race. Forget the points right now. We won. You know, it is still about the racing to me. And we got us a win, and there's 9 more to go, and there's the Lotto at Talladega, and, you know, and all kinds of things can happen. So, you know, we'd rather finish first than anywhere else, and we did here this weekend. But, you know, lots of racing to go. You can't see the picture clearly till we get down to 5 to go, and it'll be even more clear with 4 to go. So hopefully we can keep things going and be in the picture. But winning races is what it's about.
Well, despite all he's accomplished in his storied career, 2009 has been a year of firsts for Mark. His first year driving for Hendrick Motorsports. Got a couple of first wins, too. His first win at Phoenix. That one came back in April. Big win for Mark. He was the #1 seed in the chase after being first in number of wins this season. There's a theme here to this. You are picking up on this, aren't you, Ricky? And now, Mark has scored his first win at New Hampshire Motor Speedway to begin the chase in as fine a fashion as one possibly could. Let's start with the finish and the last restart. Mark Martin racing Juan Pablo Montoya. He chose the outside lane for the restart, which I know raised an eyebrow with me. What about with you?
It certainly did. I mean, this is a setup for a classic shootout. Mark Martin stronger on the outside. Juan Pablo Montoya was just outstanding on the inside. And it came down to this. Coming off of turn 2, you're going to see Mark Martin with about 6 feet advantage. And folks, that was the difference. And the reason why? It gave him the advantage leading into the corner. Juan Pablo Montoya needs to make that up here, because without that, he can't determine or effectively take control of the corner entry. He wants to make it a straighter entry. You see there with the arrow. Those arrows are exaggerated a little bit, but there is a point to this. And the point is that Mark Martin had that advantage. He had those 6 feet, and he chose a little tighter entry. Watch the braking on the 42 car, Montoya, when they go back. Right there, a little wiggle. Mark's smothering him here, and Boris, you understand what this feels like. You can't get back to the gas. You can't get back to the gas, and he clears him off of 4, and that was the difference in making the pass and ultimately the win.
Yeah, especially down at New Hampshire, since they widened the track out, they added that real estate at the bottom, but it's really flat, and your car gets loose when you're down there at the bottom inside somebody. Makes it a lot tougher.
You had me concerned there for a second when the cars were backing up. They're not used to seeing that on the racetrack. Let's talk now with our champion crew chief about strategy. Alan Gustafson choosing not to pit the 5 car with just over 100 laps to go at lap 194, and then having to pit under the green. Let's talk about risks and rewards here.
Well, with 106 laps to go, Alan knew that everybody else had to pit again. They had to make one more pit stop. And again, he probably had enough race data that said there was a possibility that they were going to go under a long caution, or I'm sorry, a long green, and there'd be no caution. So he knew that if he pitted early, got fresh tires on his car, and everybody else had to pit and cycle after him, he could even get a bigger lead. It would take about 30 laps, get his car close to the front, and not a big risk. When you're leading with the lead he had, remember, even when they pitted, he was still the first car 1 lap down. So if a caution would have come out, it would have put him back on the lead lap. Not a big risk when you have a fast car.
No. If a caution would have come out before he passed Denny Hamlin, he would have been down a lap. Then he
Correct, but he would have been the first car 1 lap down, so he would have gotten the lucky dog and been back on the lead lap with about 50 or 60 laps to go anyway.
That's why he's a crew chief. That's why he's a crew chief.
Point, double point.
Point, double point.
I thought he made a huge mistake when he did it when I was watching it.
And off of your point, and when you have that kind of confidence and that kind of command, and you say, I am running my race, doesn't that suggest these guys got pretty good direction about the chase and where they're headed?
When you've got a car that fast, you control the race. You make everybody else do what you're doing. They have to play your game. And again, you can make a lot of decisions when you've got a car that strong.
Let's talk about winning. You heard Mark's comments. New Hampshire hasn't been a very good track for him in his opinion. What does winning at a place that's not been your best venue do for you?
I'll tell you what it does for me. It says if Mark Martin is self-deprecating at Talladega like he was at New Hampshire and says, I got no chance, I'm putting all the money I have on him to win. Because, it's, you know, this guy...
At Talladega?
He's already... Starting in the chase, he talked down New Hampshire and Talladega. Said, these two are the lottos. I'm not good at New Hampshire. Talladaga's a lotto. When you look at what he did here, what hurdles do they have left to clear? He's outstanding on 1.5-mile tracks. He says he's okay at Martinsville, but he's won there.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark never gives himself credit, so I'm going to have to do it for him. He's just one of the best.
You know, I'm gonna have to ask Mark when I see him. I know that he's only 50, but his memory must be bad, because I can remember at Loudon with Jeff Gordon, Mark just wearing us out. I mean, battling all day long. So I don't know about Mark saying that he doesn't run so good at Loudon. I can remember him giving us a heck of a race more than once.
And it wasn't that long ago in the beginning of the year when he was outside the top 35 in points. He was having so many bad runs, and here he is now leading the points, dominating the most wins of the year with 5. Pretty amazing, the turnaround.
If you want to make a statement to start 10 races for a championship, that's the one. Go out there and slug it out on a track you consider to be one of your worst. Our Sports Nation poll question for today, we want to know, is this the year Mark Martin wins the Sprint Cup? Your opinion, yes or no? Log on to ESPN.com's NASCAR page and vote. Results coming up a little bit later in the show. Still to come, Juan Pablo Montoya. He led the most laps and barely missed his first oval track win. More on his day is next. We'll also look at how the race ended under caution and how the final finishing order was determined. 5 points here or there could be a big deal. And the championship chasers who had troubles in Sunday's race. What happened and what now? Still to come on the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable.
NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot. Visit HomeDepot.com. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot.
Let's talk more about Juan Pablo Montoya. For a lot of the race, there was a pattern to his performance.
Yeah, he was super strong for 30 laps, and whatever magic he had would start to fade at that point. He'd give up the bottom, which was his strength. Guys would catch him and pass him.
After a pit stop shuffled him back to the pack for a bit, he had to make some bold moves to get back to the front.
Yeah, who says there's no passing in New Hampshire? I don't think he got the memo there.
Check out this one. Three wide for third place. And that was with just 12 laps to go.
That's some great racing.
Big deal. Montoya cannot overtake Mark Martin on the final restart. He was barely behind Denny Hamlin when the field was frozen on the final lap. He takes third place money and points, and he discusses his late duel with Martin now.
He always ran me very clean. He always does run very clean. So I was kind of surprised when he did that. I know it's a chase and everything, but you just learn from it. You know, I would have done the same thing. I think you got to do it to somebody you trust is not going to knock you out. Because I think if I would have done, if I wasn't me, like if the second place guy wasn't me, I think somebody else would have been a little more aggressive. But you learn from it, you know. It's one of those deals that you got to do what it takes. We made the chase. From now on, anything above that, it's a bonus. Come here, first chase race, put them both in a second. Can I ask for anything else? Not really. You know, a win would be nice, but we get in there. You know, they'll come.
And yes, Montoya finishing third on Sunday at the point that the field was frozen. Denny Hamlin had him by about the width of that piece of paper, and that's what got Juan third place points. What he was referring to was his race with Mark Martin, he was referring to. His race with Mark Martin in the final laps and his view of Mark's tactics in keeping him behind him. Want to look at it, get the opinions of our driver panelists and our champion panelist, and fair or foul. Now, after Mark cleared him, this is what Juan was referring to.
Yeah, and I don't understand this. When you're the leader, you set the pace. And it's the responsibility of the guy running second to find a way around. And listen, the bumper's an option, but it's not an option with that 5 car. And I feel sorry for anybody that gives Mark Martin the bumper to win a race in the chase.
And I still think Mark Martin, he gained a little respect from Juan Pablo, and Juan Pablo gave him a lot of respect. If that was Jeff Burton, like we saw a few laps earlier, Juan Pablo was going to bulldog his way by.
And Mark's earned that, hasn't he?
He's earned that respect, because that's how he races everybody his whole career.
Now, what Mark said in the post-race press conference when asked about this is, he went into the corner as fast as he could with his car's handling. He said Juan Pablo's car was handling and he was going into the corner faster than me. If I'd tried to go into the corner as fast as Montoya had been, I'd have slid up the racetrack, Montoya would have gone by, and I'd have lost the race. So what Juan's beef was there was that Mark slowed up faster than Montoya was expecting, and it broke Montoya's momentum that allowed Denny Hamlin to get alongside, and they started racing for second, and Martin was gone.
But it's not Mark's first rodeo. Just because he's an older guy and he's a nice guy, he knows how to win races. And he knew he had to keep him down there on the inside, kind of pinched down there, so he couldn't get in the gas as quick as he could. And that's how he won the race.
Yeah, and what really we saw there was great close racing between 2 world-class drivers who know the limits of their equipment and didn't drive outside those limits and take one another out. I mean, I really commend Juan Pablo, you know, to be in that position, have a car capable of winning the race, but he didn't drive it outside the limits. He could have knocked Mark out of the way, didn't do it. Mark did what he had to do to stay in front, but again, 2 world-class drivers kept their cars within the limits.
I agree with you, Ray, and I'll tell you the payoff for Juan Pablo Montoya. The last couple of months, he's run up front. When you're up front, you learn from the best. He learned something at New Hampshire on how to win this race or how to win on a flat track, and it's priceless. You know, you're stuck in the middle all year. You learn some bad habits. You get up front among Jimmy Johnson, Mark Martin, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart. You learn how to win races.
Let's talk about the pattern to the race. For 30 laps, Montoya would leave the field, and then he would come back to the pack. Why does that happen?
Well, sometimes when you set a car up at a place like Loudon, as rubber gets down and whatnot, different tire pressures make a big difference. Your car will take off early. Shock absorbers, spring rates, things like that. When you put heat in the tire faster, your car will run faster right off the bat. But as the run goes on, that heat starts to slow you down, make the tires a little bit more slippery. So you've got to make that choice. Do I want to go early or do I want to go over the long run?
And at a track where there's a history of a lot of caution flags and a lot of shorter runs, then maybe you want to go quickly.
Yeah, in the end, had he been in the position, you know, it's 70 or 80% of the time there was a caution within the last 30 laps of the race at Loudon. So they did the right thing. They just weren't in the right position to take advantage of it at that time because Mark and Alan Gustafson had a little better strategy early.
Now, Montoya nearly won on an oval track. We've been waiting for him to get that oval track win. He almost got it done Sunday in New Hampshire. Starting the chase, what does that say?
Well, I think it's got to give him a lot of confidence. Not that he didn't have confidence coming into the chase, but this is one of the more difficult tracks on the circuit. There's nothing else like it going forward, but the fact is it's going to help him because this is a tough track, and all of his drivers, his peers, will respect him more because of what he did at New Hampshire.
Plus, all year long, Juan Pablo says, look, I'm racing to get in the chase. I'm a points racing right now. If I make that chase, I'm going to let the reins loose, and I'm going to go for broke and get a win. And he showed how aggressive he was and how exciting he was this weekend, and he's definitely going to win a race soon.
It was a lot of fun to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Still to come on the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable, how the leaderboard of Sunday's race was dominated by those chasing the championship. And we will look at the things that didn't go all that smoothly for some of the chasers, from axle caps to engine failures. We talk about that next.
Welcome back to NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot.
Not everything went smoothly Sunday for chase drivers. Lap 66, Casey Kane with some troubling smoke.
Boy, it's a sinking feeling when you're in that situation, battling for a title that early in the race.
Yeah, they asked him if he was out of fuel, but when you blow a motor, you know it sounds like dropping a fork down the garbage disposal. Not a good sound.
Casey finished 38th. A lap 162 pit stop went badly for Kurt Busch.
Yeah, not a good situation. When you're leaving the pits early, other guys are coming in. Certainly everybody needs to be watching. Thank goodness nobody was hurt. Not a lot of damage there. Really didn't affect that car. As long as you don't have a tire rub, you keep going.
Came back to finish 6th. Brian Vickers had trouble on a pit stop at lap 162. A left rear lug nut dropped off, but you can't work on the car outside the box. So they had to pull the car back into the pit box before they could put the lug nut back on. It dropped Vickers from 11th to 30th at the time. He comes back to finish 11th. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And Tony Stewart's got a little something wobbling there.
Yeah, he had a problem with the left rear, the drive plate covers the axle. I'm not sure they ever told him what the situation was until after the fact, which probably was a good idea.
Past the pit here for repairs, falls from 4th to 26th at the time, ended up 14th. Thoughts of some of those people now?
We had a mechanical problem with the assembly of the race car and had a bolt come loose and basically axle cap came off, so we had to fix it. So we gave up all those positions on pit road. I'm sure he's upset just as much as I am, so he should be. I mean, we let him down. We have to assemble that car to the utmost of our abilities, and we missed it.
We're not making it any easier on ourselves as a team. You know, we started the weekend out, had a lot of engine problems at first practice, really put us an hour and a half behind all of our competitors. And then in the race, we had a lot of problems in the pits and some other problems that just cost us an opportunity, I think, at the top 5. We still rallied back for a top 10, and, you know, I'm really proud of that. But, you know, if we want to win the championship, we're going to have to stop beating ourselves.
Yeah, it was a fight. You know, we had a good car. We were a top 5 guy, and you could have thrown a blanket over the 5 that finished up front. It just was a matter of which sequence came through. What hurt us the most was the accident on pit road, and that put us on the right sequence. So we were good after that.
I felt it down the backstretch, started kind of shaking a little bit, and I knew it didn't feel right or feel good as far as engines go. So I looked at the oil, everything looked fine, and then it just kept getting worse and popped. But it's a bad deal. The Bud team did a good job. We were doing good, man. We had a good car. We were working our way up slowly and just had a couple small adjustments to make it better. And I thought we were a pretty good car today.
All right, let's pick some of these apart, starting with Tony Stewart and the axle cap. Crew Chief Darian Grubb, you heard him say after the race, a mechanical problem on the car. During the race, he said a checklist item that perhaps didn't get attended to. It's one of those things that you can't have happen if you're going to win a championship, right?
No, we talk about pressure and talk about mistakes, and you cannot make. We have seen mental mistakes take people out of the chase. They've got a good car. When you go through inspection, you pull your axle caps off. NASCAR checks the camber. You put those axle caps back on. There are 3 bolts in each one. Obviously, the left side got left loose.
These guys can match Jimmy Johnson in the 48 team speed, but you got to give the 48 credit for just not beating themselves. We talked about it leading up to the chase. Here's an example of it.
And again, Tony Stewart, when he had to stop for repairs, knocked from 4th to 26th and knocked off their pit strategy, and he was only able to come back to finish 14th. The Brian Vickers pit stop problem. This was a case where a crew chief made a great call that kept that problem from being worse.
He did. I know Brian felt bad, but when you look at what they did, you're not allowed to work on that car outside the box. They put the lug nut back on, then backed the car up, then did the pit stop. That was a sharp call by Ryan Pemberton, because if had they worked on that car, it would have cost them a lap and he would have had a much worse finish. Being able to bring that thing back and get an 11th place still keeps them in the hunt for the chase. They've got momentum, so that was a good call, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've worked with Ryan in the past, and he is really calm under pressure when things are happening. And at Atlanta, when he changed that axle, and now this, I mean, he is definitely earning his money as a crew chief.
Yeah, great call by the team to keep, again, from getting the one-lap penalty, and they were able to come back and finish in 11th spot. The Kurt Busch pit road crash, you know, it's one of those short pitting circumstances where everybody's just getting fuel and the guys up front are already leaving before the guys in the back are at their pit stalls.
It's one aspect of racing that doesn't get a lot of attention until something like that happens. But from a driver's standpoint, you're listening to your spotter on the way in, your crew chief on the way out, and you're waiting for him to say clear all the way out or stay tight. In that situation, what he needed to hear was wait, just wait. He may have heard it late, but I'll tell you, that is far more difficult than it looks every week.
So we don't blame the driver. We blame Ray, the crew chief, because you should have been on top of that
got
box.
3 pedals, baby. Gas, clutch, and brake.
When the jack's down, we leave, and you're supposed to say, hey, Boris, there's somebody coming.
You've got that order right. If we can't blame the crew chief, we'll blame the spotter.
Blame Ray.
When did you two guys start listening to your crew chief?
I always listen to Frankie. Well, maybe not.
Yeah, thank you. I thought I'd leave you enough time to fix that there. Still, for Kurt Busch, you heard him talk about the damage to the right front. He was able to come back, race for the lead, and wind up with a good solid finish. So again, the team took a bad day and made something decent out of it, which could be a big moment in their championship.
Yeah, and they did it under some difficult circumstances. With Pat Tryson, you know, and all the hoopla around that, being allowed in the shop for 1 day a week, he probably deserves a lot of credit for doing the most under the most difficult circumstances.
Yeah, that's going to be something to watch as we go through these final 9 races. Kasey Kahne's engine problem, related or not to the fact that this team's engine shop is going to be reportedly closed down at the end of the year as part of the merger with Yates.
Well, I don't know how you can walk in and tell 90 people they won't have jobs at the end of the year and then be surprised if you have an engine problem. I don't believe sabotage is an issue, but a distraction, it takes so much at the racetrack, tuning these things, paying attention to them. It's just a shame because, again, feel like Kasey had a shot at being a threat in the chase, but I think you're going to see more problems for this team.
And the fact that a lot of those people, certainly you have feelings for that because you hired a lot of those people years ago, but the facts remain. Tell 90 people they're going to be out of a job, and it's going to be tough to expect everything to toe the line.
Well, it takes pinpoint focus to do this. I mean, you're racing the best people in the world, and your focus has to be on there. Every little detail matters. We saw, you know, we're seeing mental mistakes. We're seeing axle caps loose. Last year we saw sway bar bolts loose. We're seeing pit mistakes. We're seeing things like that. So when you throw a distraction in on top of that, you know, mistakes have got to be expected.
And you know that better than anybody because you performed at your best, at perfection, and winning those titles, Ray. And I don't understand the timing of this because if you're going to beat Jimmy Johnson, and to beat the best, you have to be your best. And how do you do that with something in the back of your mind? How do you do that wondering if you have a job? How do you do that with all these circumstances? This doesn't make any sense to me.
Perfect place to move to our next topic with mistakes and how much they can cost you. We move to this. Chasers dominated the front of the field on Sunday all race. They took 7 of the top 10 finishing spots. All 11 of those running at the finish scored finishes of 17th or higher. We point that out in part as a way to hear from some of the other guys who had great runs, but we haven't heard from yet in the program. But the Chasers all showed why they're in the championship. They ran up front all race long.
Well, we're excited about it. You know, we were really mowing those guys down if the caution wanted to come out initially. And, you know, we were probably going to finish second anyway. The 5 was kind of out there a little ways. But just proud of this whole team. We've improved everywhere. We've improved on our engines, the chassis, and on pit road, and that's what it takes to win.
I'm happy with the first race. I mean, we're in the hunt. We're 7th in points. Had a top 10 finish, and those two things are just the top 10 finish. Breeds for a good points finish, and if we get to running like Mark, there we'll be all right. The one thing about Mark though is he's been strong like that, but he hasn't been consistent, and we'll see if we can play the consistency route.
102 points back is a lot of points to make up, but it could have been a lot worse. I said last week, it's damage control when you don't have a good run. But, we should have finished better than this. We didn't. It wasn't our day as far as tuning on the car, as far as pit stops, and, just a lot of things. And so that's why we finished where we did. And all we can do is put it behind us now and go to Dover and try to rebound.
So a look at the standings after race 1 of the chase for the Sprint Cup. Mark Martin up 35 points on on Jimmy Johnson and Denny Hamlin, with Juan Pablo Montoya moving up 7 spots to 4th. He's 55 off the lead. On the other end of the scale, Casey Kane 161 points behind after getting smoked, pardon the pun, in New Hampshire. Okay, don't pardon the pun, I meant it. How does this level of competition, every time I looked up at the leaderboard, it was all the chase guys bunched up front. How does this level of competition affect people's approach to the remaining races?
Well, they've got to race. It's just like they're doing. They've been racing each other all year. That's how they got in the chase, and they've got to continue to race. When we go to Dover, there are guys at the back of that field that you just saw. Jeff Gordon, Carl Edwards, Casey Kane. They absolutely, positively have got to go for a top 1, 2, or 3 finish at Dover, and they don't really care where everybody else is at right now.
Yeah, and I tell you something, this is going to be dangerous. They've allowed Juan Pablo Montoya and Denny Hamlin to build their confidence, and it is peaking. Are they the favorites? Absolutely not. Jimmy Johnson's the favorite. But Mark Martin, I've never seen him better. And he was pretty darn good 10 years ago.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin all year long, he kind of lived under the shadow of Kyle Busch. Everybody picked Kyle Busch to win the championship, Ray. And he won those 4 races. And all year long, Denny Hamlin just kind of clicked off those top 10s after top 10. And now all of a sudden he's kind of riding that momentum with a win. And he really looks like a threat to me.
Yeah, I talked at the end of last week's show about how the possibilities and the potential for these 10 races were just enormous. Sunday's race didn't do anything to make me change my mind about that. One mistake, one pass for position, one little slip on pit road could be the difference in this championship. And I don't think that's overstating it.
No, absolutely not. Pit road, we've seen pit road be extremely critical this year, and everybody's pushing it to the limit. We've seen some mistakes, but drivers either speeding on pit road or missing their pits. We've seen some loose lug nuts and things like that. So pit road is absolutely an issue with track position being so critical.
And everything you said, you could hear in Jeff Gordon's voice. These guys that are in the game, these guys are battling each other for the title, understand that every race counts, every lap counts. He was 15th, and I'll say this, if 15th is his worst race in the chase, he's going to be just fine. The challenge is that his worst race, because all these guys are under so much pressure to finish top 5, not top 10 necessarily, top 5, because of how competitive it is.
You're exactly right, because Jimmy Johnson last year, he won with just a little over a 5th place average, so you got to be running pretty strong every race, and you can't afford a bad race like Casey Kane.
It's really going to be interesting, I think, right down through these final 9 events. Still to come on the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable. Lots of hard but clean racing. That was my opinion of Sunday's New Hampshire event. Will our Roundtable panel agree? We'll find out. That plus more of the sights and sounds of Mark Martin's Granite State Gut Wrencher coming up on NASCAR Now.
Full Throttle is brought to you by Degree B12.
It's here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway that the first of the 10 races to determine who wins the NASCAR Sprint Cup unfolds. While 43 drivers will race for the win, the focus now is on the 12 racing for just one trophy as the chase for the Sprint Cup begins.
Bill's ours to get, but it starts right here today. Right here, this is the first step. Get some on 3. 1, 2, 3, get some!
Really excited about the opportunity we've got ahead of us here, guys. Once again, congratulations on what you've done so far this season, but as far as I'm concerned, it all starts right here today. You ready? Green flag, green flag, green flag.
Bright red Chevy starts down into turn 1, trying to funnel into a single crew. Juan Pablo Montoya gives up half a car length to Tony Stewart. Stewart has a slight advantage off turn 2. Tony Stewart will take the lead at the midpoint of the back straightaway. Juan Pablo Montoya is in the 2nd spot right now.
Blown up. Pressure all right. It's not out of fuel. It's been up in smoke. center a little better.
10-4, bud. I did do just a little bit of air on the left side.
4 tires of gas here. Half a pound out of left front, pound out of left rear.
3, 2, 1.
Go, 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 3, 3, go, 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 go. Okay, front of 99. Don't worry about it, front of 99.
Yeah, you see Pat Trice with his binoculars looking at the nose of that number 2 car. Kurt's reporting to him that the car is overheating right now.
What happens, yeah, guys just getting fuel, Andy. Yeah, Kurt Busch pit road. Just a gas and go. Oh, man, I tell you what, that's caused some damage to Kurt Busch's car.
By Mark Martin, he's got the lead.
Makes the smoke drop the left front. Here's Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the wall in turn number 4. He lost the car.
Heads up, guys. I got turned by double 2. Hold the brake there. You got some coming. Hold the brake.
You're the best out there. Real proud of you. Just seal this thing up.
You guys are serious right now, boys. Here comes Montoya making it 3 wide on the inside. You've seen how aggressive he's been today. Look at this. He's getting 2 for 1 down the back straight. Wow. I'm telling you, Montoya's not done here. He's going for this win. He's the baddest car in town.
Side by side, they are door to door out of turn 4, and Martin will take the advantage by a car. What a move.
1 more, buddy. 1 more.
Mark Martin will try to hold on for 1 more lap to win the Sylvania 300.
And we've got a spin off turn 4. AJ Allmendinger spun.
Caution's out. Coming to the checkers. Got the win. Smith, baby, you are unbelievable. Unbelievable how good you are. I'm speechless. I can't talk right now, boys. Sorry, we'll get it out when you get over here to win it, sir.
As we go full throttle with Degree D12, we tell you that Mark Martin became the 4th active driver to reach the 40-win mark in Sprint Cup racing, joining Jeff Gordon, Bill Elliott, and Jimmy Johnson. That's pretty good company. Denny Hamlin's runner-up finish, his 7th consecutive top 10 result. And Hamlin's teammate Kyle Busch, the top non-chaser in the race, finishing 5th. But, and this is a big but, his car failed post-race inspection, too low. Penalties for such usually handed down on Tuesday following the race. We continue our discussion of race 1 in the chase for the Sprint Cup with Ray Evernham, Ricky Craven, and Boris said, my opinion, there was some tremendous racing on the track on Sunday. Hard racing, clean racing. Agree or disagree?
I agree, and I think a lot of that credit's got to go to Goodyear. We've been hard on them at times, but they worked, and they're bringing a better and better tire for the cars. The guys are getting this new car handling better and more comfortable with it. Saw some great side-by-side racing.
Look at that. Denny Hamlin locking up the left front, trying to run in there.
I cannot describe to you how difficult it is to regain control of the car on corner entry at a flat track like New Hampshire when you lock up the left front brake. Remember, you only got 2 of them. You lose the left front because it's locked up, and the car goes straight forward. And you know, there was some great racing all day, and I think the drivers have a great level of respect for one another. How else do you explain the side-by-side racing without knocking the heck out of one another?
Well, I'll give you another, just a small element to throw in there, though. And I was thinking back to this when we were talking about Montoya and Mark Martin earlier. If Juan gets into Mark, he may take himself out. And those are points he can't give up either. Yeah. So with all the championship guys in a knot racing at the front of the pack, they have to be careful not to mess themselves up as well.
Right, but also, too, the one rule that has really made the racing great is the double file restarts. I mean, at the end of that race with all these restarts, it couldn't have been any more exciting.
It's made it great, but it's a recipe for disaster. I mean, under these circumstances, and these guys are managing it, and that's why they're the greatest drivers in the world. I mean, that's the bottom line.
And again, you know, look at Kurt Busch here. If he gets into Mark and then takes himself out, he's cost himself points in the championship.
Yeah. Again, you know, there's a theme here. It's been Mark, Mark, Mark. Do you think that now with Mark being kind of the leader of the gang here, the guys are, you know, being such a clean driver, he's setting that example, and the guys are going, you know, we don't have to race each other like a bunch of wild men. You know, Mark is out front. He's setting the example. Has Mark made a difference on these guys?
Maybe. I don't know. Jeff Burton might not.
I don't think so.
Not him.
Jeff Burton might not think so.
I think, though, the chase guys in particular are giving each other a little bit of respect, and I think the other cars on the track are giving the chase guys just that little extra bit of respect.
It's good, hard, clean racing, I thought. Very entertaining day. And we're not done talking about it just yet. Coming up later, we will look ahead to chase race number 2, the 400-lapper at the Monster Mile on Sunday. Greg Giffel won it a year ago. But up next, when the caution was and wasn't thrown at the end of the New Hampshire race, what happened and why when the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable returns.
NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot.
Mark Martin will try to hold on for one more lap to win the Sylvania 300.
Got a spin off of turn 4. No caution yet. They got cars sitting here. They're going to have to throw the caution.
My spotter stayed on me. Still green, still green, still green.
So they'll race back here to the checkered flag.
You wait as long as you can to try to not affect the outcome of a race.
Coming to the checkers. And it is officially over. Watch out, watch out. The caution's out.
You got a guy sitting on the racetrack. They waited too long, I'll tell you that, because that's not safe.
When the caution waved on the last lap at New Hampshire, it brought up a couple of questions concerning the timing of the caution and how the finish was scored. You see how the rule reads about what happens when the caution flag comes out after the white flag has been displayed. Basically, the race is over and the field is frozen, and the field will be scored based on their track position, not necessarily the scoring loops on the racetrack. NASCAR uses the TV video replays and that kind of thing to determine who is where at the instant the caution comes out. And by the way, they do have a way of determining the instant the caution comes out. NASCAR Vice President of Competition Robin Pemberton explaining the process at the end of Sunday's race.
We try to give adequate time and notice for cars to slow down. We don't like the race to end under caution. We felt like we gave enough time for safety's sake, and it is what it is.
I never heard him say caution, so, you know, everybody was still going, and then the caution, I saw the caution out of the corner of my eye, so I never heard the caution. They said that's because it didn't come out until just now, and I was surprised by that.
I was just absolutely stupid. 44 was sitting there the whole lap, so they could have called it way early. They just wanted to let the race play out. They waited too long, I'll tell you that. I'm going to go tell them that, but because that's not safe. I mean, you got a guy sitting on the racetrack, and we got adrenaline flowing with 800 horsepower, and you don't question that. You just you do what's safe and what's smart. It didn't change the outcome of the race.
All right, first, let's talk about what NASCAR was trying to do. You heard Robin Pemberton, the Vice President of Competition, say they wanted to see if they could let the race finish under green. They had a single car spin. He didn't hit anything. You try and give him some time to fire the car up and get out of the way. But the criticism that they waited too long.
I think NASCAR stuck between a rock and a hard place because they had 100,000+ people there that wanted to see that exciting ending, and NASCAR wanted to give it to them. It was a little bit close, but it wasn't that too long ago. They used to race to the caution around all the wrecks, so it was a little close, but I think it's still a good finish.
Okay, I'll give you that, Horace, but I'll say this, and you take it to the bank. You show any one of these drivers the checkered flag, and it's like, and this is a poor analogy, but it's like throwing meat to a lion. I'm telling you, there's a disconnect. If you show these guys who have worked 299 laps and 3/4, the checkered flag, they're going to race to it. And you shouldn't be critical of them for it, because that's what their instinct is.
So just for perspective on that, Mark Martin, for example, the race leader, he hears from his spotter when he's in turn 4, caution's out, race is over, congratulations. And he's not lifted.
He's not lifted. No way.
How can you? You know, think about what's on the line and think about what you're trained to do. And Mark Martin has 216,000 laps in this sport. Why do I know that? Because ESPN has such great statisticians. But think about this. He's done this. Any one of these guys is grown into this, and their instinct is to go, particularly when they see that checkered flag. And that's the rock and the hard spot that you speak of.
And we talk about Mark Martin. I mean, Mark Martin clearly would have been the leader when they threw the caution, but back in the pack, it was so close, it gets to be a judgment call. And if you're a driver in turn 3 and they say caution, 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 but you're looking at the checkered flag, you're going to race to the end just to be sure.
That's a good point, Boris, because again, we're focusing on the leader. The leader was out there, but there is a lot of racing going on for the rest of the chase spots, and 5 points could make a big difference. And it is a very, very tough position. You're looking at something, you got less than 30 seconds to make that call. So if we're up there and it's our responsibility, by the time the caution comes out, we realize, is the guy going to fire up? We're looking at one another. Somebody's got to make that call. All of a sudden, the cars are bearing down on 120 miles an hour. NASCAR does the best they can. Yeah. They'll probably go back and look at that and say, hey, we probably didn't do the best job. They're going to listen to the drivers, but you know, it is a tough situation, and they're not going to make the perfect call every time.
A.J. Allmendinger also need to acknowledge the fact he did what he needed to do and stay in line. You know, he ultimately could have affected the points day for Juan Pablo Montoya or Mark had he gone to the high side or tried to get out of the way to the low side. A.J. stayed his course.
But just remember, the race was over by then. The race was over when the caution was called in turn 4.
We're going to need another hour for this debate. We're going to need another hour for this debate, because if he hits Montoya before he gets to the start-finish line, if AJ hits Montoya, what happens then?
If Montoya doesn't cross the start-finish line, he does not maintain the pace.
And that's my point.
We're playing Monday morning quarterback. It all worked out. It was a great finish. It seemed like it was under green. The right guy won the race, and we were all happy to see it.
Boris,
it was exciting.
Pay us to be Monday morning quarterback.
We're all happy.
Oh, right.
We're professional
I thought I was a race fan.
No. When we continue on the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable, if my voice holds out, a look at chase race number 2, Sunday in Dover.
Jimmy Johnson and the Cobalt Tools Lowe's Chevrolet come off turn 4 and score their 4th win at Dover.
The all-new World Series of Poker continues on ESPN Tuesday night. Be there for the drama of the flop, the turn, and the river, where a player's exhilarating high can be immediately followed by a devastating low, and a single card reveals their fate. 2009 World Series of Poker presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky on ESPN, all new Tuesdays at 8 and 9 Eastern.
Greg Biffle will go back to back. Biffle beats the monster and wins at Dover, Delaware.
That's the best driver, the best car, and the best pit crew won that race. Thank you, fellas. Thanks for sticking with us.
Drivers in this year's chase account for some 20 Dover wins. 12 of those belong to the current Hendrick trio of Johnson, Gordon, and Martin. Carl Edwards leads the 12 drivers where average Dover finish is concerned, his 7th place number, including a September 2007 victory. The Monster Mile didn't get its nickname just as a catchy marketing thing. It's pretty much earned that reputation over the years as drivers and crew chief. What are you thinking about heading to Dover this Sunday?
I'm thinking about protecting my right front tire. Dover has historically been hard on right front tires. A lot of load there. I want to make sure that I've got my car free enough to where the guy's not abusing the right front tire.
Yeah, I'm thinking about qualifying well, getting up front, because I can manage that right front tire if I'm out front or toward the front and not having to battle with these guys. This is a tough place to battle. It's a lot like Bristol.
I'm thinking about Carl Edwards and Greg Biffle. They haven't won a race all year. This needs to be the race they turn their championship around and get a win.
You can't get any farther behind, huh? Easy to ask who you pick. I want to know, when you started to answer that, who must have a good race this weekend? You say Edwards and Biffle.
Edwards and Biffle, I mean, they haven't been running that good this year. Their cars have been a little off. Historically, this is a great track for Carl Edwards and Greg Biffle, so they really need to see what they can do this weekend and turn their season around.
Well, I agree with Boris, but that would be boring. So I'm going to go with Juan Pablo Montoya, because, you know, he's raised the expectations for all of us, and I think for he and his team to keep this thing going, his only chance is to keep it going early, or he's going to be in trouble.
I say my old buddy Jeff Gordon, if he wants a shot at a 5th title, he's going to have to run in the top 3 this week at Dover.
All right, up next, a quick look at Saturday's NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race from New Hampshire and our final thoughts. That's next on the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable.
NASCAR Now, presented by the Home Depot. Visit HomeDepot.com. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot.
If Sunday's race is a sign, Terry Blunt writes, you'd better be ready to reel off a string of top 5s if you want to win the Sprint Cup Championship this season. See that now at ESPN.com. Saturday, New Hampshire, 200 laps for the Camping World Truck Series. Kevin Harvick in the field in the 2 truck. He would be a story. Championship leader Ron Hornaday, driving the Harvick's 33, gets the lead here from Kyle Busch in the 51. Hornaday would lead the most laps. 28 to go. Little pit strategy. Kyle's team goes for fuel only. The quick stop gets him the lead. Meanwhile, Harvick in the 2 is trying to pass Hornaday for 2nd, but can't. And he gets a little vocal about it with his employee and teammate.
You better tell him to let me go here before we wreck, so I can go get the 51 or at least try.
Well, Hornaday wouldn't let the boss pass. And after a late caution, more of the same. Harvick trying to find a way around Hornaday for 2nd. Couldn't do it. While that was going on, Kyle Busch was rolling away to take the win. Kyle with his 5th Camping World Truck Series win in 11 tries this season in the Truck Series. Congratulations to Rowdy in the 51. Couple of quick news and notes things before we wrap it up. Brown-Forman has announced it will end its NASCAR program and not extend the Jack Daniels sponsorship with Richard Childress Racing beyond 2009. Fan voting for the 2010 class in the NASCAR Hall of Fame ends Sunday. Place your vote at NASCAR.com. And with his victory Sunday, Andrew Ranger's all but locked up the Canadian Tire Series title. All he needs to do is start next week's race in Fraserville, Ontario, and the title is his. I heard they had a snow delay in that race this past weekend. And our poll results, yes or no, does Mark Martin win the championship? You think, yep. And I don't think New Hampshire did anything to change that vote. Well, maybe it did. A lot of people are Mark Martin fans, though, coming into this chase, right?
I would say definitely. If they're not, they sure will be. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Sunday's race did a lot to change a lot of minds, but a lot of folks think Mark Martin can win the championship. Final thoughts, sir?
I mean, the race to the chase was so exciting to see who was going to make the chase, and sure enough, the first race to the chase to the championship didn't disappoint. I can't wait to the next race.
Yeah, it's a special time in the sport, and it takes me all the way back to the early 90s with Harry Gant being Mr. September and October, I guess, and it was outstanding then, and it's outstanding now. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, great thought there.
Well, buddy, my final thought is I'm just glad your voice made it. I know. I hope you get feeling better, and looking forward to a great race at Dover.
He saw all this stuff and said, no, don't hand that to me. I'm not doing it. So it's off to Dover this weekend. The nationwide race on Saturday is on ESPN2, and the Sprint Cup race is on ABC on Sunday afternoon at 1 Eastern Time. I tell you, remember the 3-wide pass for the win last year at Dover, Greg Biffle? Yeah. 3-wide pass for the win? If that's what we find this Sunday, it's going to be a lot of fun. So congratulations to Mark Martin. He wins chase race number 1. And don't forget, keep up on the NASCAR news throughout the week here on NASCAR Now. The boys held out. See ya.